The fact that people argue with me on this reading thing, and people argue with me about mentors. No, just use your own gut feeling. Is that how you learn English? When you were 2 years old, you use your gut feeling to start conjugating verbs? No, you learn from other people.
People really only buy one thing. They buy into stories. That's why Steve Jobs and Apple did well. People buy the story of Apple. This was my bed right here. I had bunk beds because sometimes there'd be another guy working. And this was the toilet, the bucket. I bet you could still, oh, they changed the floor. There was a hole in the floor and the bucket was underneath.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
He's Tai Lopez, and here's my take on his top 50 rules for success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Increase your sense of urgency.
Life is very short. I see people going, oh, I'm 22, I only have, I have all the world in front of me. You don't. First of all, tomorrow's not guaranteed, but more importantly, the age with which people are starting to become entrepreneurs. I read there's a kid, he made a nuclear power plant in San Francisco. He's 17 years old. That's your new competitor. So increase your sense of urgency as an intangible.
Rule number 2, practice.
I need to practice. Remember, before the day comes, you got to practice. You cannot be standing at the free throw line playing professional basketball in the 7th game of the NBA championship and to hope right then you're going to be practicing. Practice is too late. Larry Bird used to, the great basketball player, he used to shoot, 1,000 free throws, 8 in the morning. My friend Don Ravine trains a lot of the pro basketball players. LeBron James, he trains Durant, Kobe, Chris Paul. And he says these guys are up when everybody else is sleeping, they're practicing. So everything you want is going to entail a good bit of practice.
Rule number 3, protect what you already have.
So the second thing you have to do is people have to understand insurance. And I'm not just talking about life insurance or health insurance. I'm saying you have to protect what you already have. So some people, like Warren Buffett says, you only have to get rich once. So when you do well and you make money, have insurance by save some of it for a rainy day. That's insurance.
I did a video on that. Like, that was the most important, because there was a few times in my life where I got like really, I would say really high up your pyramid,
right,
and then fell back.
Yep.
And I fell back. I did a video of it. Maybe I'll put a link in it into the description. 3 times I went like up, way up the pyramid and fell back because I didn't.
Insurance. Well, now you can tell people and Mark Cuban, who became a billionaire, he owns the Dallas Mavericks and different stuff. He sold a company, like a sports radio program, and he was paid in shares of Yahoo. Oh. And so they paid him all these shares, which were worth a lot of money at the time. But shares can go up and down. So he had one mentor, a financial advisor, who said, no, listen, you should buy insurance on this. So there's a way to do that with stock options. And sure enough, those shares of Yahoo he had been paid in dropped to almost worthless. But he had locked in the value with insurance, so he's still the billionaire we know now. So lock in what you have.
Rule number 4, increase your courage.
Increase your courage. Harden up a little bit. Take a cold shower. Don't always take a warm shower. Acclimate your mind and your body to doing things that are harder. One of my friends, who's one of the most successful people in a young startup, but made $1 billion valuation on a company in 5 years. Whenever we're talking about new ideas we're going to do next, if I say, oh, that's going to be easy, why don't we do that? He says, Tai, there's no money in what's easy. Focus on these intangibles, the ability to have a ton of courage.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, check out my 254 Confidence series. It's free. The link is in the description below.
The reason people aren't patient is they value other people's opinions too much.
You have to go build self-confidence.
The minute you begin to get external in your life, worrying about what other people think about you, right? You've lost all control, and it never fills you up.
Rule number 5, get a hold of something and hang on to it.
He said, the secret to success is get hold of something and hang on. Just hang on. If somebody wants it, hang on to it. It's worth as much to you as it is to anybody who wants it. I have to think in the world now where everybody's idea of a business is make a business. I'm going to buy a piece of real estate. I want to flip it. I'm going to do it 1 week later. I'm going to buy a stock and short sale. This guy had a completely different approach. Get a hold of something and hang on to it. And if you look at some of the most successful people in the world, they follow that strategy. Bill Gates gave up very little shares in Microsoft. He owned, I think, 60% of it, even at its peak. He may have sold since then, but he got a hold of something and didn't let go. And he says, and again, that's the opposite of mentality that most people have. Warren Buffett has the same thing. He buys businesses that he would want to hold on to forever. You got to get good. We talked about this, getting good at one thing. But this guy was saying, I've heard this is a new, remember I said you got to create voices in your head? This is a voice, this Jack Simplot. They even put it on the back of the book, grab a hold to something and hang on. If you don't have something to grab a hold of, you better freak out and find something to grab a hold on. It could be an occupation, it could be a movement, it could be a charity, it could be a business, it can be an invention, it could be a piece of art, but grab hold of something and do not let go. Now, make sure you grab onto the right thing, because if you grab onto the wrong thing, you're in for some trouble. But have some investment. Don't spend all your cash so that when a good deal comes up, you have the money to buy. If you're an artist, if you're a farmer, if you're an actor, whatever, you're going to need some cash. Don't spend the taw and get a hold of something.
Rule number 6, have extraordinary imaginative vision.
People who are successful have extraordinary imaginative vision. And Elon Musk calls it a more complicated term, which is arguing from first causes, not analogy. So here's what arguing from analogy or not having extraordinary imaginative vision. Let's say you're in a horrible place. You were sleeping in your car. Yeah. I was sleeping on a couch. Someone born in ghetto, someone born in poor part of India. If you argue from, arguing from analogy means, well, everybody around me is doing bad. Right. I'm doing bad. Therefore, I'm gonna always do bad. That's arguing from analogy, and that's not having imaginative vision. The people who make it are the people who do the opposite. They go, I'm going to argue from first causes. I'm going to say, has anybody ever risen up from the ashes out of the ghetto or from the couch or from the car? The answer is we all know that story. So if somebody else did it, then if you use extraordinary creative imagination, then why can't you do it too? And that's arguing from first causes. That's what allowed Elon Musk to make Tesla, spaceships, Solar City. So for all of us, we get stuck when we argue from analogy. Well, last time I started a business, it failed. Last time I trusted somebody, they betrayed me. Well, that's good. That's arguing from analogy. That's just saying because it happened before, it's going to happen. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you do it better. You double down on your brain. You learn from the mistakes of others and your mistakes. And the next thing, you create something new. And that's where wealth comes from. Not just wealth in your bank account. Wealth of happiness, love, health, everything you want.
Rule number 7, change your mindset, change your life.
Remember, change your mind, change your life. Everybody wants to change life, but you have to change your mind. Humans are different because we have powerful minds. And sometimes that gets us in trouble. But if you pull it off right, it can bring you those things that you need in life, those things that you're missing, Everybody wants the good life. Like I say in my TEDx talk, everybody wants the good life, but not everybody gets the good life because most people aren't willing to do the stuff that it takes. They're not willing to put in the time, put in the grind.
Rule number 8, have aha moments.
Do not be a 450-pound person making fun of other people for being overweight. Just focus on yourself and learn from the world. Don't take that attitude of, oh, really? Nobody great is going to prove their point to you for the most part. They're going to say what they have to say. This guy's dead. He does not care what you think about his book. If you're able to go through this and glean 3 things that change your life forever, then that's great for you. So have that attitude of, look for aha moments at every moment in your day. I started keeping a billboard with my staff, and I'm like, guys, it's getting lopsided. Look at and I put a little mark every time I had a good idea for the business.
And I'm like, I want your side to have more than mine. There's no rule that I have to have all the good ideas. Be innovative. Be innovative. Read books like this. Find little innovations for your own life.
Rule number 9, be quick but not in a hurry.
Most people are patiently impatient, which I'm pretty sure is a recipe for a horrible life. What you have to be is the opposite. It sounds identical to be impatiently patient versus patiently impatient, but it makes all the difference in the world. So what I wish someone had told me is said, look, Ty, like John Wooden said, be quick but not in a hurry. 99% of people do is they act as if they have all the time in the world. So people are like patient. You see people, and you're like, well, when are you gonna make your move on life? They're like, well, you know, I gotta wait for a few things together. So they're patient. But then, when real opportunities arise that they can identify, instead of patiently waiting and building them step by step like sculpting a sculpture, they hastily jump into them. They don't put the hard work in. They don't build the foundation and the structure. So that's when they are impatient. What I suggest you try instead is the exact opposite. Freak out if you're not getting the dreams that you wish you had. Right? So freak out. Like, so today, don't even say, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna get good at this. Freak out now, but then patiently build. So I can just go through a million things in my life where I fell prey to that. One of them is setting far off goals. When you set a 10-year goal, you're just basically giving yourself an excuse to 8 years into it be like, well, I'm still on track because I got, 2 years more. No. Look, people who do big things make almost always an immediate action towards the goal. Once you immediately freak out, you immediately take action, then step number 2, you impatiently move through each cycle. And I recommend you can go through a full cycle. Peter Drucker says a good time frame is 18 months. It's enough time that things can kick in, but it's not so long that you lose the predictive power of goals. Goals are trying to get predictive power. So therein, I think, lies the happy medium. You're setting your 67-day goals, which are really fast. If you're watching this at midnight, start at midnight. What are you waiting for? Make haste slowly. Be quick, but not in a hurry. There's this myth of the solo entrepreneur. I'm gonna have one good idea, I'm gonna go out, or I'm gonna come up with this one invention. I was just reading a book, I think it was by Craig Venter, or one of these big biotech guys, and he said, there's this huge myth that their great breakthroughs happen from one person having an individual moment of genius. Steven Johnson talks about this a lot in his book, Where Good Ideas Come From. Almost all great ideas come from some collaborative effect. And so the best way to create a collaborative effect is for you to take what you know and clone it out to 3 or 4 people or 5 people or at least one person. Even if you, let's say, for example, hypothetically, you could get 2 people to know 50% of what you know, to be 50% as effective as you. Well, guess what? 2 people at 50% is another one of you. And you look out at the world and you go, man, all the things that could be accomplished if I just could didn't have to sleep and I could work 24 hours a day, or I could go out there. Joel Salatin told me that when he was here. He said, Ty, I don't know how people sleep with all the opportunities. And so Joel, my first mentor, he created, his protege was his son Daniel, who now runs the operations and frees Joel up to be in the big picture. And the company, their farm is more successful, Polyface Farm, and Joel's able to do other things. You have to be able to do that.
Rule number 11, find mentors.
The fact that people argue with me on this reading thing, and people argue with me about mentors. No, just use your own gut feeling. Is that how you learn English? When you were 2 years old, you used your gut feeling to start conjugating verbs? No, you learn from other people. You learn manners, you learn language, you learn all things valuable. You learn to drive from another person. So doesn't it make sense you learn life? So books are just the mentors who maybe are dead now. You want to learn about Steve Jobs? He ain't alive to teach you. but you can learn through accumulated wisdom. And that's why, just trust me, very few powerful businessmen I've ever met don't read a lot. Warren Buffett, who I think is the best businessman by far in the world, he has 75 companies that he pretty much runs, 200 billion in revenue. He reads 8 hours a day. He reads 600. He said he slowed down in his old age. He only reads 500 pages a day. Bill Gates goes on reading vacations. Mark Zuckerberg just started a reading once a week book club on Facebook. It already got a couple million followers. And now with audio books, there's no excuse. You got YouTube videos. Let this thing run in the background. Like, you want to become like a supercomputer where you just download smart crap from smart people. And you pick and choose. Like, some people are like, Tai, I don't agree with everything you say. I'm like, good, I don't agree with everything I say. Like, a year later, I'm like, wait, I was wrong. I see people making fun of the Kardashians. I'm like, you're gonna make fun of the Kardashians? Look, Kylie Jenner, the youngest Kardashian, in the last 18 months has done $400 million in revenue on lipstick kits and various makeup things with Kylie Cosmetics. Put that in perspective. L'Oreal, Maybelline, massive brands. It took them 50 years as an organization with thousands of employees to do what Kylie Jenner did by herself at 20 at 18. You're gonna laugh at the Kardashians? Do you have to agree with everything the Kardashians? No. But like Abraham Lincoln said, I learn from everybody, even if sometimes it's what not to do. So you can just go into the Kardashians, reverse engineer their success, go, I like this, I like this, I like this, I don't like that, then leave out what you don't like.
Rule number 12, work smarter.
I know single moms. My mom was a single mom. All around us, families, single moms, people trying to put food on their table, working 2-3 jobs. Is the answer for them to just work harder, or is it to work smarter? Work hard or work smart, because they're different. I'm always reminded of this story that my mentor, Alan Nation, told me. He said, Tai, and I don't know if this is a true story, but it gets the point across. There was a plane flying over South America. It crash landed, and it was full of all these engineers, all these hard workers. And the hard workers got out, and there were some machetes, and they all grabbed a machete, and they began to hack their way through the jungle. Chop, 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 chop. Flurries of activity, boy. They were working hard, but they forgot something. Don't ever confuse flurries of activity with accomplishment. Activity doesn't always equal achievement. So they were chopping through, and luckily for them, one person got out of the plane. Instead of working hard, went on, climbed up a big tree and looked out and surveyed the landscape and yelled down to the group and said, hey guys, you're working hard, but you're going the wrong direction. You're going deeper into the jungle. The city for our escape is the other way. You see, what's moved civilization forward is not just hard work. Go to any hotel, go to any restaurant, the hardest working people there are working their ass off, and they're still not getting ahead. There's still not equality in pay. There's still people making massive amounts who don't work nearly as hard as the working class. No, what gets you ahead is leverage. In fact, it's the exact opposite. What you want to do is figure out how to work half the time and get twice as much done, so that you could take a vacation, so that you can paint a painting and have some downtime, so you can go on vacation with your family, so you can just lay out on the beach and just look at nature and enjoy life. You want to just grind yourself into the ground? Go ahead. But the people that get ahead are not just grinders. They're not. The grind is necessary, work is necessary, but it's never a goal. It's a necessity. The goal is very different. The goal of life is not to breathe. Breathing is a necessity. The goal of life is to enjoy your life, to do something important. You breathe because you must. You work because you must. But you never say, well, why I'm here is just to breathe. No, you're not here just to work. Working harder doesn't always change the game.
Rule number 13, find your motivation.
Most people procrastinate because they don't feel confident that what they're doing really motivates them. If it really motivated you, you wouldn't procrastinate. It's like a 14-year-old kid that the mom and dad can't get the kid to do anything, but the kid's motivated to play video games. The kid will ride his bike across town to buy a video game and come back. So there's motivation there. The parents just don't know how to find it. And as you grow, you have to know how to find deep within yourself that motivation. And once you have motivation, you have no problem with procrastination.
Rule number 14, be a perfectionist.
People, you have to know how to double check your work. It's that simple. It doesn't mean you're always a perfectionist, but it means when it's important, when you're a pilot of an airplane, double check before you go. If you get on a plane, you hear the pilots double checking, the co-pilot going, hydraulics, And the guy goes, hydraulics. And that's why planes don't crash. And it's called 6 Sigma. It's 3 defects per million. Your goal in business and in life on the important things is to make 3 mistakes per million transactions. And the only way you do that is by being a perfectionist in terms of double checking.
Rule number 15, have thick skin.
A lesson in branding, whenever you're trying to brand yourself or any company, if you change your brand from what it used to be, right away you can get resistance. So most people, when they get a little resistance, because most people don't have thick skin, they stop. But over time, if you keep branding yourself in the new brand, then eventually it catches on. Like I used to not have much fitness stuff, so when I started putting fitness stuff, people were like, what is all this fitness? Now, eventually, people just associate that with you, and they forget there was a time when you didn't do it. So that's a good tip on branding. You have to have thick enough skin, because it's kind of like when Facebook changed. Every time they change their interface, people go nuts. Oh, I hate this. But then 3 months later, they can't remember the old one. And then when you change to a new one, they say, no, we like the one before. But that one before is the one they hated because it was a change from the version of, one before. But Mark Zuckerberg's smarter than people. That's why he just keeps changing it to whatever is better, and then people eventually like it. Same when Instagram changed their logo, and Snapchat changed their, people always... A lot of people have low O, meaning low openness to new experience. They automatically hate anything new.
Rule number 16, invest in yourself.
And I'm telling you, becoming a learning machine and a person who invests in themselves works. I invested at least $100,000 a month in my own education. Literally, 100 G's a month. Not a year. I got a CPA, back that number up. I've shown it. It's obvious, too, if you watch my Snapchat. Traveling, mentors, coaches, consultants that I pay. And I've been doing that for years. And it's funny, the more I invest in myself, every year my income's gone up massively. And people go, oh, well, I'm not going to pay for stuff. I'm just going to Google it. Well, go ahead. But I'm telling you, there is a magic in investing in yourself. People get it. Invest in real estate's good. Oh, okay. I do that. Invest in stock market. That's good. I buy land. I invest in buy businesses. It's all good. But nothing touches the ROI on investing in my own brain.
Rule number 17, be organized.
The next one is organization. I can't tell you how much better my life is, and anybody watching this will be, if you wake up every single day and you take 10 minutes. I have yellow notepads sitting all around my house. I got that from Bill Gates. Bill Gates built Microsoft at 17 by locking himself in a hotel room with 6 yellow notepads, and he wrote out the whole basic code for DOS and things that built Microsoft, okay? He became the richest man in the world 18 years straight because he was organized enough to lock himself in a room and think through his day. And so what I try to do, and whenever I do this, I have a great day. Whenever I don't, I notice it. Be organized a little bit, 10 minutes. I actually have this little couch thing outside of my shower, and I put a notepad by it. I take a shower when I wake up. I walk over to that. I kind of sit there, and I just write out. I mean, it can be as little as 3 main projects you want to get done that day.
Rule number 18, optimize for the right things.
If I could go back in time and learn one thing, I'm going to tell it to you right now. It's this. You can only pick one thing that you want out of life, and if you pick the wrong thing, you'll never really be successful. Let me back up. My mentor, Joel Salted, said, the worst thing in life is to get older and realize you got good at the wrong thing. And I see people that are very wealthy, but I don't admire them. I live here in Beverly Hills. There's billionaires all up and down the street. Doesn't mean I would trade lives for them. In fact, the best test is, I call it the exchange test. Would you trade lives? And the reason that almost anybody I meet, I wouldn't trade lives for them, it's not because they're not smart, it's not because they're not good people. It's because, one simple thing, they're optimizing for the wrong thing. So let's say you say, I want to be an entrepreneur. That's not something you should optimize for. That's ridiculous. Here's why. You have one life. Maybe we go to heaven or hell after, maybe there's an afterlife, maybe there isn't. I've never been there, so I can't speak on it. But I can tell you, you get one chance on this planet. And if you optimize for an entrepreneur, what about your health? What about love? What about happiness? I know miserable entrepreneurs that are fat, out of shape. I don't want to be them. I know a dude that, not a close friend of mine, but a friend of an entrepreneur friend, and this guy's a billionaire, but he's so fat he can't get out of bed. His $2 billion, he has a private 747 jet. So would I want to be him? No. He optimized for the wrong thing. He optimized to make $2 billion, but he forgot, why would you want to have $2 billion if you don't have health? I always remember what Joel Salatin said, nothing worse in life than realizing you got good at the wrong thing. That guy got good at the wrong thing. It's irrefutable. You cannot argue with that. Why would you give your health up to gain money? There's a saying that when people are young, they lose their health to get wealth, and when they're old, they use their wealth to get back their health. It's a circular logic, and circular in this case is illogical. It's stupid. People are stupid. If I could go back in time, I'd realize most people are lost. Literally, most people are lost. I'm talking about the people who write. You know, I got the biggest book club in the world. I know top authors and all these people. They might be smart in one specific domain, but if you look at their life, I wouldn't exchange for it. There's a few people that I've met that when I look back, I'm like, you know, one of them, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Not everything, but he was healthy, he was strong, he changed the world, he made gyms hot. Gyms come from Arnold Schwarzenegger. He made that shit hot. All these gyms all over America is from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, other people worked on it, but not like him. He motivated people, became a self-made millionaire before 30. He wanted to act. Acting's an art. He was an artist. He became, you know, maybe he wasn't the best actor in the world. He's not bad. I was actually in his kitchen a couple months ago, just like this, me and him talking, smoking cigars. He's a good actor. Like I said, he might not be, you know, Academy Award, but he got the good life. His son was there, his kids were there at his house. He's happy, he's friends, he's got social life. You gotta have health, wealth, love, happiness. If you at any point optimize for anything that doesn't involve all four of them, you're making the biggest mistake in the world.
Rule number 19, build an elite team.
Here's what you gotta do to build a team. First of all, number one, you gotta realize no one ever did anything big without an elite team around them. Bill Gates said he never did anything alone, except take tests. He said he had Steve Ballmer, he had Paul Allen, he had 100,000 employees behind him to build Microsoft into the biggest company in the world. Same with Facebook, same with Apple, same with Elon Musk. That realization will help you put in the time and motivate you to have the effort, to want to put in the effort. Number two thing is you have to train formally. Everybody knows they need to train their employees, but they do it in a very informal, haphazard way, which doesn't work. What does formal training look like? Well, maybe a little bit like a classroom, a dedicated room that your employees go into, a dedicated time, pen and paper, drills, exercises, quizzes, testing for retention. Then number three, you got to look over their shoulder, because once you do the formal training, you can't expect memory retention to be perfect. So it must be continue over the shoulder style training. My main hope is that you'll take away the concept of a formal training program. Most entrepreneurs train very haphazardly. They train only in crises. Well, that's not going to cut it. If you only train during crises, then guess what? Your blood pressure is going to be through the roof, and you're only putting out fires, prevent fires, prevent fires, prevent fires. So you should have at least a 3-time-a-week training program for your employees, even if you only have one employee. And it should feel formal. There should be a curriculum to it. There should be an understanding when they walk in the classroom or the training room what they'll learn for that day. There should be evaluations formally. So don't just be like most small business owners that don't have an elite team because they never took the time, they never understood the importance, they never formalized the training, and they never followed up on the training.
Rule number 20, have fun.
Hey, I'm back here in my garage. Just got this new Lamborghini. But you know what I'm more proud of?
Are you doing that knowledge again?
Oh.
I am sick and tired. Every time I go out of town,
Sorry, sir.
I find out you're uploading YouTube videos talking about your cars.
Yes, sir.
And your house.
Yes, sir. Sorry about
Cut
that.
it out!
Sorry, sir. The bushes, I trimmed them, though. I trimmed them. Look how clean this thing looking right now.
Shut up!
Okay, sorry, sir. I gotta go. I'm gonna lose my job.
Rule number 21, take some pain.
I started Google AdWords in 2001. Okay, I got lucky. I just stumbled and I was one of the first people to ever use online advertising. I was in, I think, the second month Google AdWords launched.
Whoa.
And there was no YouTube videos. There was no Perry Marshall books. There was nothing. You just kind of wasted money to learn. Now, we're the most spoiled generation. Everything, this computer on this phone, iPhone 7, is more powerful than the first rocket that put man on the moon. That cost billions of dollars. Now we get that for under $1,000. And people are still like, I'm lost. Yes, you're lost. Sit down and then open up Safari and go, how to do Google ads. And you're gonna come up, let's see what I come up with. AdWords, they have their own tutorial. WordStream, Jumpify, you got some paid stuff. Then you have some free stuff on HubSpot. If you sit in a chair, Charlie Munger calls it assiduity. Put your ass in a chair. Sit there and focus without being, the average American right now, the average person in the world, our attention span has dropped to 5 seconds. The sad news is the average goldfish has 6 seconds. We're now competing with goldfish and the goldfish are winning. So if you don't have assiduity to sit down, read, there is no solution for you. You will always be poor because you'll always be beat by somebody who's willing to sit in the chair.
Is there a way for people to build that discipline?
Yes, pain. And that's why I'm not a big believer in delusion. You asked me one of the rewiring things we have to do in this world. I'll tell you one. You ever heard this myth? Everything happens for a reason, so just accept it. Well, there's kind of truth to that. If I jump off a building and break my legs, yes, everything happened for a reason. The reason was gravity. Like that's why you break your legs, and physics. Legs brittle, concrete not brittle. So, but people interpret everything happens for a reason, be like, well, I was meant to learn from that thing, and then BS. Read Richard Dawkins' The Selfish Gene, one of the most important books written in the last century. He says, organisms that only learn through trial and error lose to organisms that can learn through other people's trial and error. Is anybody here, we got a little live audience, anybody here ever had to be hit by a car to learn to look both ways? I didn't. I kind of learned from just somebody telling me, big car, 2 tons, velocity, smash, dead. And I now always look both ways. So if your myth is that the only way you're gonna learn is just through massive mistakes and trials and error, you haven't read Richard Dawkins' book.
How does pain allow somebody to get more disciplined?
Okay, so going back to that myth of when you see your life and anytime there should be pain, you go, no. It was just how it was meant to be. No, look yourself in the mirror sometimes and go, you know why I'm not happy? It's because I didn't listen 10 years ago and I got in the wrong career. You know I'm not happy? Because I married the wrong damn person. It wasn't meant to happen. Yes, everything happens for a reason. You made a bad choice, but it didn't have to be that way. And the second you build up pain, and this, by the way, is not my opinion. If you talk to guys like Dr. David Buss, top 10 most cited psychologist in history, okay? He's one of my main mentors. He told me, I said, do adults change? Like, we do all this self-help videos and podcasts. I said, am I wasting my time? He goes, yeah, kind of. I said, why? He said, well, after 25, it's very hard to teach old dogs new tricks. By the way, that's why I've changed most of my stuff targets people 18 to 25. That's why I do Snapchat and all that, because there's hope for 18 to 25-year-olds. Now, if you're over 25, before you get depressed, he told me, but I have good news for you, Ty. I said, what? He said, adults learn through massive trauma. So you will learn. You have to let in some trauma into your life. And that's rough, but no pain, no gain. Like if you are 100 pounds overweight and you want to be able to play basketball, here's my news for you. Everything happened for a reason. You got fat because you ate too much and you didn't exercise. So welcome to the gym. And the first year is going to be hell. But that pain, hopefully, will reprogram your brain that every time you want to eat that nasty thing, go, wait, I don't want to go through that pain again. So I think one of the myths of society is we won't let pain in. We just excuse it all away. Like, no, that was meant to happen. Oh, you wasted 20 years of life married to the wrong person in the wrong career? No, Tom, it was meant to happen. Where's the people who go, you up, dude. You wasted 20 years and you will never get it back. You better go in your room and cry. And the truth is, you only learn as an adult. Unfortunately, most people can only change with massive trauma.
Rule number 22, hustle.
I want to show you what it means to give sweat equity. That if you don't have any money, start with sweat equity, meaning go work for somebody else, use your time, energy to make them money. That's what I did. I'm here at Joel Salatin, my first mentor's farm, and he said, if you want to work for me, you can live in this little cabin. And it didn't have a toilet. Well, it had a bucket. So, and it had no heat or no water. This was my bed right here. I had bunk beds because sometimes there'd be another guy working. And this was the toilet, the bucket. I bet you could still, oh, they changed the floor. There was a hole in the floor and the bucket was underneath. Nightstand here, and I put a cup of water in it to drink. And we'd sleep in sleeping bags. And when I woke up, it was always an ice block. That's how you know it's cold in the morning. You reach over, it's like, the whole thing goes, you can't start out at the top. You start out at the bottom. That's how the game goes. The natural order of things.
Rule number 23, have a map of success.
The third thing that you gotta know is you have to have a map of success. So think about, in the olden days, they used to bury treasure, and to find it, they would have a map. And if you didn't have that map, you could spend all the hard work, all the time, all the effort, all the labor you wanted. You never would find the treasure. And the school system failed us. Let's just face it. Elementary school, junior high, high school. I'm not saying all school is bad, but I'm saying there's things it didn't teach us. We didn't learn the proper tools. And so we weren't given the map to success. And that's why so many people are in debt, and why so many people are depressed, and why so many people have financial trouble, and so many people don't know how to invest their money. It comes from a lack of a map, and I want to give you a map. And that's part of why I've traveled to 40 or 50 countries. Once I was sleeping on that couch, I found a mentor, Mike Stainback. One thing led to another. I began to business network and began to travel. I've been to New Zealand and Japan and South America, Bolivia, Chile, Germany, all these countries around the world where I found mentors who gave me a map. They said, here, Tai, here's what worked for us. I remember being in Germany with a guy who invited me, and he was 30 years older than me. And he laid out how, he just told me, we went on a walk back to the hotel where I was staying. I was speaking, doing a little business talk there to his staff, and he said, Tai, I want to share with you what worked for me. I started at 12 years old, and now I'm 70 years old. And I want to show you what worked for me, Tai. And I remember thinking, this guy's giving me the map. What if they had given me that map when I was 18 years old in school? Life would have been so much easier. If you have the map, you'll cut the learning curve.
Rule number 24, operate from a sense of logic and duty.
You have a concept called never be the bitch of your own mind.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Your own mind is driven by deep evolutionary drives. So, for example, narcissism is a protection mechanism, right? So your mind wants to tell you you're amazing. It makes you its bitch. You have to override that and go, you know what, I'm not that amazing. So let me go learn from amazing people.
Do you have methods for people to do that? Because I think that's so important. So I tell people, don't trust everything that your mind says. Certainly don't buy into all of your emotions. Just because you have an emotion doesn't mean that you have to act in accordance with that. But how do you help people get over that? How do they overcome that?
I think humans, for the most part, learn by osmosis. So it's hard to lecture people into success. But what you could do is you could inspire people to understand this. So for example, if school system could find all the 14-year-olds and find out what they admire in people, right? It's the reason I show Lamborghinis and Ferraris, is I got a lot of young followers. And you know what 19-year-old guys like? Lamborghinis and Ferraris. So I show that part of my life because then they listen to the other stuff. So first you gotta lead by inspiration. This has been proven over. You cannot pound stuff into people's brain. People actually do the opposite. When parents tell their kids, you gotta read, nobody reads. But if I show a Lamborghini and Ferrari, which is the reward that people want, and then people go, how do you get it? I said, see all these books, I read them and put it, then people, I have more school kids reading books, I think, than anyone in history. I don't say that cocky. I'm telling you, it astounds me because all I had to do was put up a video with Lamborghinis.
Right.
And so being the bitch of your own brain, the way you learn not to be, the easiest way is to be around people who aren't the bitch of their own brain. Like Joel Salatin, my first mentor, I was lucky enough right out of high school, instead of going to college, I was with him at 19, and he is not a bitch of his brain. He's a man of, he wakes up and his life's more like of duty. He knows his duty, and whether it's hard or easy, he plows through it. So every day, for example, when you have breakfast at 6 in the morning on a farm, he writes out an organized thing on what he wants to do for the day. When you're the bitch of your brain, you go, I'm just gonna freewheel this day. It's very hard to be organized. We're not, dogs aren't organized. Do you ever see your dog organizing day? So if you wanna, you can either act on the animal side, which is just a wing life, or you can operate from a sense of logic and duty. And so I learned somewhat, I'm not even as good as Joel, to not be the bitch of my mind by just being around him for a while. And so that's the best way. Find somebody that you look at them and you go, this is a person of discipline, of motivation, self-motivation. They don't need external motivation. They're motivated from within, and spend all the time you can around them.
Rule number 25, focus.
Look, the reason I talk about social is it gives you something to focus on. But let me step back. Some of you can't focus because, let's just face it, you know social media makes money by making you unfocused. Scientists have studied how Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of these apps have created addictions. And that's why the people who own them are the richest people in the world. Now, I use social media, so I'm not gonna say don't use social media. A little practical tip for 2018, turn off all notifications. On my phone, I don't have one notification on. So if you have an iPhone, go to settings, right here, go scroll down to notifications. Where is my notifications? Right there. Turn everything off. Look at mine. Show previews. Never. Off, 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 off. Every single one is off. Okay? Because I'm not a sucker. I use social media, but social media is not going to use me. I'll look at my Facebook when I want to, not when Mark Zuckerberg wants me to. Dopamine's released by these apps. It's literal physical addictions created by these. Again, you can use social media, but don't let it use you. So just a little practical thing, turn off the damn social media notifications. Instagram will be there. You got to be reminded every time someone DMs you. Why? Are you too dumb that you can't remember that Instagram has notifications? If you can't remember it, that means it's probably not important. So it's a win-win situation. You got more time and less distraction. So focus in 2018. I gave you the first thing to focus on, which is your social life. You're gonna have to focus. You know, I don't know how to draw a horse very well, but I'll just use a square with a head. But every time I try to draw, people are like, you're horrible at drawing. So I am horrible, so horse. I used to have a horse, and they put these things on the side of horses right here. They're called blinders. They don't really blind the horse, but the horse can only see straight ahead. And the reason they do that is because when you're out on the road with a horse, I lived with the Amish for 2 years. If a big car comes by and the horse sees that out of the corner of their eye, they get scared. And I actually knew a guy, he was driving along the side of a road, there was a cliff on the edge, that he didn't put the blinders on that horse to focus the horse. A big truck was coming, the horse saw it and kind of went like that to the side, boo! Now he didn't die, but he went right off the cliff. Got injured. Got thrown off 3, 4, 5, 6 months rehabilitating from their injury. That's a good metaphor for people. You need to put your blinders on and focus straight ahead for 2018. What do you want out of 2018? More money, more happiness, more time, more freedom. Focus that brain on that thing. You can't be, this is the average person's brain in 1 second. They want to focus on, let's say they're trying to improve their business. Well, they also thinking about, oh, I got a DM. Oh, okay, Snapchat. Oh, well, yeah. Oh, my mom's calling me. Oh, I wonder, what happened on the next Game of Thrones episode. Focus. It can be as simple as, for example, make a time when you check all your social media. I do it. I try to check it once a day. Now, I'm in the business of social media, so I do check it a little more, but my personal side, I try to wake up,
focus, and I just go through all my apps one by one and get it out of the way. 15 minutes. You know, I have a lot of social media followers, so it sometimes takes me a little longer. I got 13 million or something, so I get a lot of DMs, but still, I'm not going to check them all. Be real. Why? Just because, you know, so if you got 1,000 or 2,000 followers, whatever, 5,000, I used to have 100 followers. It took me 10 seconds a day. And then I don't need to check it. The average person at work is checking their email, they said, like 20 to 50 times an hour. What a waste of life, man. Don't waste your life.
Rule number 26, find motivation.
You have to know what motivates you. And it's different for different people. You might not care about cars. You know, you might like travel or freedom from a 9-to-5 job. Whatever your thing is, find out your mix. I wish the school system had taught us this. You know, we learn so many things that we don't need in school. You learn isosceles triangles and the history of Mesopotamia, but what about how to be productive, overcome procrastination, figure out what motivates you? For me, it's a mix of a little bit of materialistic things, some non-materialistic things like freedom and travel, ability to help other people, help my family, help charities. That mix gets me out of bed every day, and you gotta know yours.
Rule number 26, let fear drive you.
There's this test called the dark triad test, which, again, anything important like this, nobody ever learned it in school because schools are too stupid to take real powerful science and apply it to life. But the dark triad is a worldview barometer for everybody watching. You can take it. There's a different free dark triad tests online. It tests for 3 main traits, negative qualities: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and being psychotic. And I've personally tested thousands and thousands of people. It's the most accurate test. And what happens, narcissism, okay? One of the symptoms of a narcissist, it's not just like, oh, I like to look in the mirror, right? That's what we think of narcissist. One of the classic symptoms is very thin-skinned. They're always offended. If you have a friend that anything you say constructively, they fall apart, it's almost always narcissism. Even if they're introverted, there's multiple forms. There's introverted narcissism, extroverted, exploitative, all these different sub-facets of narcissism. But we live in a society that's very narcissistic. You're told like, oh, everybody is a winner. No, not everybody's a winner. That's like saying everybody's blonde. There's a definition of what blonde is. Blonde is like this yellowish hair. So you lose meaning when you start going, everybody's blonde. Well, everybody doesn't win. And the sooner you wake up to that biology is ruthless, man, then you get a little fear in you. And when you get a little fear in you, you start listening. Because if you're truly afraid, you listen. Let a little fear come in and drive you and motivate you.
Rule number 27, don't get stuck in the financial matrix.
At the house here, Warren Buffett, one of the richest billionaires in the world. He bought this house in 1958. One of the reasons most people caught in the financial matrix is they don't teach you in school you should invest in things that don't depreciate, you know? So he does have a house, and house is real estate, so it's somewhat good investment, but most of it, he makes $200 billion a year cash flow, not all net, but he makes that investing in businesses. He does some real estate. That's what you gotta do. Or else, like I said, people trapped in the financial matrix. The financial matrix is basically where you work for somebody and you never break free. So you're like this slave. And so you have to create excess cash. You got to create investments that work for you while you sleep. While he's sleeping in this house that he bought in 1958 for probably, I don't know, 100 grand, his businesses are generating, you know, $20 billion a year for him. And you can replicate that on a small scale. You don't have to do 20 billion, but you have to learn how to self-educate yourself. Don't get stuck in the financial matrix.
Rule number 29, learn from people.
One of the things that'll change your life, or the thing that changes your life, people ask me, is it a book that you read? Is it that? People go, I want to become an investor. In general, what changes your life, there's a good book on this by Jim Collins, one of the top business writers. It's luck events of who you meet. So I went to that Omaha, Nebraska investor meeting because by being around other investors, ideally in person, but when you can't do it in person, it can be through a book or through a video. That's what teaches you how to become an investor. It's not like, life's not just all about facts, like, okay, you invest in real estate or you invest in the stock market and automatically you make money. No, it's more sophisticated than that. You have to pick up from people their vibes. You have to pick up their habits, their intuition. That's how you become a great investor.
Rule number 30, help others.
My friend, I'm gonna pay it forward to you today. I got some money for you.
What?
That's $500, my friend. Make sure you take care of your dog.
Come here, dog. I'm going to buy a van. I swear to God, brother, I'm getting off the streets.
Your dog's eating a shoe. Try to get off the streets if you can, man. What'd you just say?
You are an angel.
You said there is a God? I hope so. I hope so. What's your dog's name?
No.
All right, Scout. You have a good day. Now, some people will probably say he might use that money for drugs and alcohol. And there's some truth to that, but I don't know. At this point in my life, I don't feel like it's my place to judge everything, figure everything out, try to help. Some people use it in the right way, some people abuse it, but for the people that do use it, at least people didn't hold back giving because of the people who do abuse it, you know what I mean? Plus with that guy, I kind of have a soft spot for dog. He's got his dog, I want to make sure his dog, hopefully buy some dog food, vet bills, you know. I feel like animals are a lot of times helpless. For all of you that are successful out there, count your blessings. Success and fame and money is short, but the good karma of giving to other people hopefully lasts forever. Help the helpless without too much judgment. I wonder what the world will be like if everybody, all 7 billion people, didn't go to sleep until they did one random act of kindness. Be interesting. I'm no expert, but probably better than all the nonsense that goes on now in the world. Violence, injustice. But what do I know? Until someone figures out the answer, I guess I'll keep giving to the homeless and the helpless. I don't know. I'm no saint, but feels like the right thing to do.
Rule number 31, stand out with your story.
People really only buy one thing. They buy into stories. That's why Steve Jobs and Apple did well. People buy the story of Apple. It's like this hipster company that, it's not even what the company is. It's the largest corporation in the world. That's what it really is. But they position their story as like, you know, hipster and artsy and all that. And so Grit Capital, you got to ask yourself, I call it the brand story. What's the brand story here? And the brand story has to stand out. That's what I mean by who, what, where, when, why. Who are we? What are we doing? Who, what, where? Where can you find us? When, and the why. The last one is important because why is like why you should do business with us versus all the other sources of capital. And that's the why is the most important part. They're all important, but it's the most forgotten part. You go to people's websites, there's no why we're different. And people, just think of this, Tinder, dating. When you're flipping, all you're doing is looking for differences. Imagine if every Tinder profile was a blank, no picture, and just said, I'm a male, I'm, 6 foot tall, I'm this age, I live in this city. That's raw data. You would never go on a date with that person because why are you different from the person there? So good Tinder profiles differentiate. So most of your website should be why you're different. People get it. You're a capital, so you're a fund or you're helping people with capital. They get that and they've heard of that. But it's like, what can you do for me lately? That's what people care about. What can you do? So like if people ask like, Tai, what's different about you? I can say, there's different things I can say, but one of them is I didn't go to college. I grew up in a mobile home. I was raised by a single mom. I lived in didn't inherit a business. I went out and found 5 mentors. These are all unique stories that people don't hear every day. They assume if you're doing well in business that you went to Harvard Business School or your dad had a business and then you took it over. That's not my story. I'll close by telling you this. This is how you figure that out. It's very simple. I call it the waiter-waitress test. Every restaurant you go to, every Starbucks barista, every person sitting next to you on the subway, just start talking. And then you got to look at their pupils. Body language tells you a lot. When people aren't interested, they'll kind of be like, oh, okay. And they'll like look at their phone or like, but if they like turn and are like, huh? And if they ask you questions, That's how you really know. Smart, if they're like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, and so tell different versions of the Grit Capital story, or whoever's listening, your company, tell different versions. Be like, so I could, for example, the reason I have this story that I'm telling you now, because I've tested different parts of my life. Remember, your life has different stories you could tell. You could tell the story of when you're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to your current age. So we all have 50 different stories about ourselves. You start talking to every waiter, waitress you meet, and then you pay attention. If they always, when you tell the story number 17, if they always go, wait, what? Then use that as your main story. That's called polling your audience. You have to poll the audience. Most entrepreneurs are doing it in the 1980s business style, where they just tell people, this is what you better like about me. Now, the world's too competitive now. You'll fail quickly that way. So that's where Sam Walton was right. The customer is always right as a group, not as an individual. So if you talk to your customers and 90% of them like story B, don't tell story A.
Yeah.
So you got to get out there and talk to strangers. Every business website is like, what's the least human version of me? Like, how can I just make it so you don't identify with me? That's my goal. How can you not identify with me? That's what I want to put on my homepage. Then they'll put on a little sub-page about us. And then you scroll down, there's a little picture. Then if you click on that, 18 clicks later, you find this awesome story. Forget that. Good story, right on the front. Right here. I'm here.
Rule number 32, find your fuel.
Motivation is different than purpose. I'll give you an example. So if I say my purpose is to get 1 million kids in the ghetto reading books. I do a lot of stuff with reading. That's kind of one of my things. That's a purpose. So I like to think of purpose as vision. But vision is relatively pointless because I've never met a person, successful or or unsuccessful, who doesn't have a vision. Take your friend who never does anything, the laziest friend you have. If you sit down with them and you go, what would you like to accomplish in life? They'll tell you, they'll talk for it. Just ask people what they'll do if they win the lottery. What's it at now? $1.2 billion. I read that if you bought 1,800 tickets a week since the time of Christ, you still today would not have good odds that you would win. So 2000, that was some professor at USC put that out. So everybody has a vision for what they would do if they won the lottery, but not everybody has the motivation to get there. So I think of a GPS in my car. I think of your purpose as the end goal that you put in your maps. So you say, I'm going to the Grove in LA. So you punch in Grove. That's great, but it's pointless when there's no fuel in the car. Then it's just a dream. So the question becomes, what is the fuel that motivates and drives you? So let's say your thing is status. You see other people with status and you're like, oh, that'd be cool to walk in the room and everybody recognizes me and stuff like that. Well, then allow yourself to go there. When you wake up in the morning, be like, I'm gonna do X, Y, Z because one day people are gonna know my name. And I don't know if my primary driver is status, but as I look through my life, there's been times when there's absolute signs that it was. For example, when I came back from the farm, back to the modern world from the Amish, I went to a nightclub in Raleigh, North Carolina. I wish I had footage of this. It would be very funny because I went to a nightclub. It was the top night. Somebody told me the best nightclub was this place called The Office. So I knew nothing about nightclubs. I'd been with the Amish, okay? There are no nightclubs there. And I just went alone, a dude just rolling up to a nightclub alone. If you know anything about nightclubs, a prestigious one, they're not gonna let you in. So I go there and I'm kind of like, okay, and there's ropes and they're letting all these other people in and I'm like, okay, can I go in? And the dude just he just laughed. He didn't even say anything. He was like, bah, and I remember thinking, oh, one day I'm gonna own all these clubs. And I ended up basically running that city's nightlife at one level. So that's what I'm saying. That was status. I wasn't like, ooh, I wonder how much money they're making at this place. Mine was like, I didn't like to be disrespected. And I've seen that over and over in my life. So now I just came to grips with it. Some people aren't gonna like you.
They're gonna be like, look at that person. You know, they care about status. Everything you hear quotes all the time. Do not, you know, we shouldn't, doesn't matter who you are and da da da. A lot of those quotes aren't very accurate. Status is important, you know, and status is very, very powerful. And if you use it for good, it's kind of like Bill Gates. He's clearly driven by money. You do not become the 17-time richest man in the world without being hyper competitive. Paul Allen, his business partner, said the two most competitive people I've met in my life are Michael Jordan and Bill Gates. And Bill Gates, you better believe he cares about money, but yet he's turned and harnessed that into the charity that's in some ways maybe done more good than all governmental organizations for the last 100 years. So that's why I say he's been able to pull it off. And if each of you could find your version of that. For some of you, it's like you pulled up in a car and everybody laughed at you, and you know, and you're like, one day I'm gonna pull up in a nice car. When I get out of this car, people are gonna look at me and be like, Bob's here, Susie's here. And you don't have to feel guilty for it. That's my main thing. As long, and I won't have time to go through this, but as long as you start feeling, so this is the selfish side we started talking about. As long as you start filling up the unselfish side, it will offset the negative connotations that society has, okay, with whatever drives you.
Rule number 33, turn negatives into positives.
I was in a crib and two adults were yelling. But my mom came in the crib and was like, it's okay. And I can remember my mom crying. So my very earliest memory as a human is instability. My dad was he was a pro bodybuilder. He was a big, strong guy. And I would tell people about my dad like he was still in my life. I never told them, because they'd be like, well, where's your dad? And I'd be like, oh, he's busy, he can't come. But the truth was, didn't care that much. My mom says, Tai, when I was pregnant with you, the FBI kicked down the door with guns, put guns in my face, took your dad away, and brought him across the country to Terminal Island off Long Beach. I remember it was my birthday. My dad, when he got out of prison, he just stayed in Long Beach. But for that birthday, my dad's like, I will drive down and take you out to dinner. And he said he'd be there at like 5 p.m. and she had to go to work. She had a night shift job. And she's like, okay, your dad will be here soon, so I'm gonna leave you at the house alone. So I sat there, I was kind of on the couch, and I remember waiting for my dad, and it was like 5:30 came, nothing. 6, nothing. We had a home landline. I'm like waiting for the phone to ring. 7, 8. I remember being like super sad going, but you're a little kid, so you're like, oh, I have hope. Like, he's still gonna come. He's just late, he's just late, he's just late. I don't remember how long it was, but my mom said she came home at midnight. I was just asleep, like literally like on the couch, just like looking out the window, and he never came. And so I remember that being like super painful and being just like, my dad doesn't care about me. Life will throw tremendous blows at you. You'll have the betrayal of a close friend or family member. You'll have, sickness, death. Life is painful if I perceive it as what it was supposed to be. But the second I switch it and go, wait, no, life's like a puzzle that I was handed. Here's your puzzle of life, Tai. We took a piece out. The dad was gone. And when I look at life like that, my life's like an adventure. And I'm thankful for it. Even the stuff that sucked in the most painful day, and sometimes in the moment, I couldn't see it there. But in hindsight, I'm like, but I wouldn't have found that puzzle piece.
Rule number 34, leave your comfort zone.
What did Drake say? If you don't have haters, you're not popping. If you just start doing stuff, you start posting, that person you thought was a friend, you'll be like, oh, why you gotta show off? Why you gotta show off? That's the person that you kick out of the circle. People should either be giving you constructive criticism. They don't always have to approve of everything, either constructive or they should be nice. You don't need anything else in that circle. You will make the average of the 5 closest people to you. That's an old saying. Guess your 5 closest friends' income. Is the average friend making 30 to 40 and you're making 50? So you're the best one in the group. You don't want to be the best one in the bubble. You want this bubble to be full of people that intimidate you. All growth comes from being intimidated. If you're always feeling comfortable, comfort comes from status, right? You feel good around your friends, you know your status with them, you're comfortable. When you go into a group, if
right now, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, all these people walked into this room and said, hey, come to dinner with us. We're all going to chat about business, going to share. You might be like, uh-oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have anything to contribute. Good. That's the room you want to be in.
Rule number 35, think big.
Think big. My mind's still running through all the conversations I had with Arnold Schwarzenegger last night in his kitchen. Talked to him for about an hour. It's one of the greatest conversations I've ever had, and that's one of the takeaways. Think big. You know, he told me, he said he always thought big. He said, don't worry about failure so much, Ty. How far can you really fall? We're all only a few feet from the ground. And I was thinking, mentors. You know, he told me about his mentor, Reg Park, his first mentor. And I thought, that's what's wrong in the world. That's why it's so easy to feel lost. Who do we have guiding our way? You know, you got to go out and you have to find people. You have to find people who have done it before, who can shorten the path, who can keep you from failure. He told me, he said, don't fail too much. One of the reasons he doesn't procrastinate and can think big, he said, is because he at 20 years old won Mr. Olympia. So he said he got used to success and he tasted success. And so, you know, make sure you find some little wins in life. Don't always lose. It's a myth that you only want to learn from mistakes. Well, you learn from mistakes. They don't have to be yours, though. People in the modern world, with all this convenience we have, the next thing you know, all you're doing is just sitting around not accomplishing anything. You know, go out, conquer the world, conquer your fears. Think big. That's all I could think. You know, he's a big dude, strong, but his life was big. Made some mistakes, made a lot of great attempts and successes.
Rule number 36, recreate your life.
Nobody in my family had ever really made money. And, you know, they say poverty is systemic, and it's true. Like, most people, you can't rise out of like your socioeconomic class. Like, one of the biggest predictors of where you'll be in life is where you're born. It sucks. Breaking the cycle is something that has to start happening in the world. And what broke the cycle for me was like realizing that I was doing it wrong. I was in a mobile home in Clayton, North Carolina, and I did not have a job. I didn't have a resume. I didn't have anything to put on a resume. I didn't have a college degree, just laying there on the couch. And when I was laying there, the question that came in my head was, is this it? All my friends went to college. They had parents that had more money and they had this, and like, I missed this. I remember just going to sleep. I was just depressed. And the next day, my mom was there and she said, you should read this book, Tony Robbins. And I remember being like, oh, I don't want some self-help book. But she's like, yeah, you should read this book. So I read it. And I don't remember that much of what I read, but I remember this one page, and it said, all greatness starts with failure. Because when you succeed, you party. And when you fail, you ponder. And all greatness comes from pondering your situation. And I remember thinking, that's what I was doing last night on the couch. I was like pondering, like, what did I do wrong? And I made myself vulnerable to the fact that maybe I did make mistakes. Maybe I had to change my life. Maybe I had to listen to different people. Maybe I had to try a new path. You know, Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting different results. And I'm like, Ty, you're being stubborn. So after I read that book, I was like, I'm gonna try something new. So I went back in that mobile home, I found a Yellow Pages, and I remember flipping through it, going to the financial section, and there was this full page ad by this guy, Mike Stainback. It said Stainback Financial Services. And I kind of pretended, I didn't lie, but I kind of pretended I was coming there to be a customer. And I get to the place and I'm like, I'm Ty, can I speak to your boss? And I'll never forget, he was sitting in like this big lazy boy chair, and he had this big mustache. He looked like Tom Selleck. I wanted to be super honest with him. I said, listen, Mike, you don't know who I am, but I know you must be successful because you got a full page ad in the Yellow Pages. That's all I know about you, but I know that costs a lot of money. If you teach me what you know about making money, I'll work for you for free. And he was sitting like in this chair, and I was talking to him this way and he was sideways, and he just slowly pivoted his chair. You know, I've been looking for someone like you for 20 years. You come back in the morning and I'll set you up with your own office and you can work for me. And I promise you, if you listen to what I'm gonna say, one day you'll hug my neck. And he did have an office, but what he had done was he cleaned out a closet with no windows, and he had put a desk
It's where all the filing cabinets was. And I sat down on the chair, and he plopped down pieces of paper and said, cold call these people. I'll give you a percentage of the money you make from them. No guarantees working for me. So I just started calling, and I sucked at it. I would call people at 6, and after 6 at night. People were like, who are you? And they were hanging up on me. I remember being like, oh no, I think I've gone from nightmare to another nightmare. But I started to get curious and creative. And I wrote down a few little different things I would say to the people. And I remember in that first month, I started opening up deals for this Mike Steinbeck guy. And I opened a deal that was $150,000 in commissions if the deal went through. And I remember going, wow, life can change like fast. And within 9 months, I went from $0 to making $100,000. And I remember being like, this is the pinnacle of my life. And I went out from then like a madman. I became a CFP, a certified financial planner. I got into finance. I learned, I read every book. You can either be paralyzed by what life gave you and let the pain, because there will be pain, there will be trauma. You can either let it build up and like build scar tissue that just paralyzes you, or at some point you go, the cards weren't dealt for me like I wanted. And so I'm gonna go recreate those cards.
Rule number 37, get knowledge.
So just knowing stuff makes you go up. And if you study status and psychology, being stupid lowers you on the totem pole. I once went on a date with a girl, one of the most beautiful girls in Los Angeles. I'll never forget, I was in Santa Monica, I was at a restaurant, and I was like, we were just talking, and I was like, yeah, I gotta go to Miami next week. And she goes, Miami, where's that? I've heard of it. And I was like, oh my God. This was American too. She's like, Miami, I've heard of that. She's like, is that Northern California? So when you do that, no matter how you look, nobody respects somebody that's stupid. Does that make sense? You don't have to be Albert Einstein, but you can't be dumb. And most people are dumb. You read 52 books a year, I promise you, your status in other people's eyes will go up naturally without you trying it, without you forcing it.
Rule number 38, deserve success.
To get what you want, you have to deserve what you want. The world's not yet a crazy enough place to reward a whole bunch of undeserving people. And a lot of people think, oh, the world's not fair, and that's true. A lot of things in the world aren't fair, but I will tell you this. In general, if you're good at something, you will rise to the top. It might take a little while for people to recognize your talent, but most people give up a year too early. So at the end of the day, my philosophy is you can be entitled, you can expect things, you can think you deserve them. You can be like, hey, and a lot of people are like that in the modern world. They're too entitled. Or you can just go out and say, I will make it, I will force the universe to give me what I want, And that works with making money. And that works about in every area of life. And every time my life doesn't go as expected, it's because I don't really deserve what I'm wanting.
Rule number 39, use the law of 33%.
I just spoke on this subject that I think is like the ultimate puzzle piece. You get this down, most of your problems go away. I call it the law of 33%. Basically, you should spend 33% of your day around people who have not accomplished what you've accomplished yet. You can help them, like you mentor them. And there's always those people, and you need to spend time around people that you can help. And then you spend 33% of your time around people who are on your level. Like you're about at the same level of what you're trying to do. Those become your close friends. Those are the people you hang out with on the weekends. But the last 33% is the magical one that doesn't happen in our school system, and almost no one even tries to find these people, unfortunately. You should spend 33% of your time around people who are 5, 10, 20, 30 years ahead where you want to be. And if you do the math, that's like a couple hours a day. And now you can do it with YouTube videos. You can do it with a book. You can do it with an audio book. You can do it with Facebook videos. If you can start absorbing from the world's greatest mind, downloading their advice into your brain, their 40 years of experience in pain and reward and making mistakes and accomplishing great things, and you basically get like a cheat sheet. And if you can absorb that, and this is what I tell myself every day I wake up, it's like, Tai law 33%, who you spending time with.
Rule number 40, support others.
How long you been playing?
12 years.
There you go, man. There's $100.
Good. Thanks so much.
No problem. Keep playing. The world needs more art. Always support street musicians. The world needs more art, music, beauty. You agree, Andrea?
Rule number 41, know what motivates you.
You spent 2 years living with the Amish.
With the Amish, yeah.
So how did you wind up moving from 2 years with the Amish to multi-million dollars a year with 500 acres over in Virginia? And
yeah, people often say, they're like, because I did a video in 2015 I had bought a Lamborghini and I posted it, and it ended up, I think the total views, there's a few versions of it, is 600 million views on YouTube. It's one of the most viewed things besides music videos, right? So people are like, how'd you end up from no electricity, living like that for 2 years to Beverly Hills? And I'm like, I have no idea actually, but life leads you down a path that you don't always understand, except in hindsight. So I guess in hindsight, I'm motivated by adventure. One of the things a mentor taught me is this thing that I call the 4 M's. A lot of people procrastinate. If you bump into, most people I meet, I've got about 13 million social media followers now. And so I get thousands of people asking me questions every day. And the most common theme, one of the most common, is how do I overcome procrastination, fear, and anxiety? My answer is like, well, you got to know what motivates you. And different people are motivated in different ways. So the 4 M's, and I've run this by a lot of scientists. Most of them think I'm on the right track. One of them, he thinks I'm missing an M. But the first M is material things, /money. The second one is mating /romance. The third one is momentum /freedom. And the fourth one is mastery /status. If you look at any person that you know, and you break down why do they do what they do, it's one of those 4.
Rule number 42, catch trends.
My second mentor, Alan Nation, who just died recently, rest in peace, he changed my life. He was my first mentor, Joel Salatin's mentor. So his mentor introduced me to his mentor, put me on an accelerated path. And the first thing he told me, he said, Tai, if you say an idea of yours and your next door neighbor likes it, it's too late. It's too late to make money with that. Once it's accepted by the masses, it's no longer a new trend. And the only people making money from it are the people who got in early. You got to learn to get in early. If you're cynical, if you're stubborn, if you're slow, if you're set in your ways, if you're non-adaptable, you're going to have a hard time doubling your income. You're going to have a hard time ever achieving real financial freedom. You're going to be a slave to the system. You're going to be a slave to the 9 to 5. I remember at one point in my life going, I wonder if I can ever make $1,000 a month from a non-9 to 5 job. Then I figured out how to make $1,000 a month. I remember making 6 figures, 10 grand a month, and going, man, I'm making more money than anyone in my family's made, for the last 50 years, maybe longer. My dad's from Harlem. My grandfather worked in a Subway. He didn't have money. You don't work in a Subway if you got a lot of money. And he was a mechanic. No offense to being a mechanic at Subway. I'm just saying he was living paycheck to paycheck. And so as I go through this and I start thinking, like, what did Steve Jobs do? Of course, Alan Nation was right. Steve Jobs presented the idea of the personal computer to, I think it was Stanford, all these Ivy League professors who were so smart, they laughed at him. But you know what? Guess who laughed all the way to the bank? Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. You see, you have to have thick skin that allows you to catch new trends, that allows you to see what most people don't see. So you need to be, I'll give you a practical bit of advice. You should be checking Google Trends every day. It's a free service by Google. You literally just Google the phrase, Google Trends. Go look what's trending around the world. Red Bull, the energy drink, formed by, I think, an Austrian guy who's now one of the richest people in the world. You know what he did? He traveled the world. He caught trends in Asia. They had this sugary drink that was successful there. He brought it to Europe. Boom. Caught a trend. And then he put in the effort. There's some other things you have to do, but I'm rolling back. I'm revealing the secrets one by one. Write down. Trend catcher, Nike.
Rule number 43, live in the now.
That book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now, it's interesting.
I never loved that book because people use the power of now to mean people have taken it to mean like meditation and stuff like that, which is fine. I'm not anti-meditation, but you can't meditate unless you're the Dalai Lama 10 hours a day. So it's not really a solution. I think what the power of now means is just not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past. Kind of like these horses. These horses are not thinking very far ahead. And horses are pretty happy. At least these ones are. Doc, Duke, you happy? Jerry, Jake. They're learning their names. They actually know them. But they're just in the moment. So I think it's less about meditation and it's more about doing activities. It can be a garden if you live in a city. It can be taking care of animals, dogs.
Rule number 44, use the law of 33%.
I did a TEDx talk and it kind of went viral. And I think the reason is I told people, if you want to do big things in life, you have to follow this thing I call the law of 33%. So you spend 33% of your time around people with less accomplishment with you. Those are people maybe you mentor, you help, right? Then you spend 33% of your time around people who are on your level. Those become your friends, people you smoke cigars with, or bubble cigars, or whatever it is you smoke. But the last 33% is what's missing in education and society. It's where you spend 33% of your time around people 20 years ahead of you, shadowing them. And a few years ago, I made a list, like everybody that you think of as great people. Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett. And I was like, some of them went to college, but I was like, what's a common thread that they all have in it? And found out that Albert Einstein bumped into this guy, I think his name was Max Levinson, who was a mathematician, an older mathematician. Every Thursday, he would go to lunch and talk math with this guy from age 16 on. Alexander the Great, who maybe was the greatest conqueror of all time, his dad hired a mentor for him at age, I think, 14 to 16. And it was a pretty good mentor. His name was Aristotle. And, Warren Buffett got a guy named Benjamin Graham. And as I went through the list, I found in the top 40 people that you could say have done big things in our time, I think 39 of them attribute a lot of their success to mentors. They don't attribute it to, oh, I took a social studies class. Oh, I memorized things in 7th grade. They attribute it as somebody who kind of held their hand and they shadowed through the education process.
Rule number 45, take action.
Talk is cheap. Action is what matters. People, talk, hold on, I'm gonna start this, and I hear it every day. I got 13 million social media followers. I get thousands of DMs. Oh, Tai, you're going to hear from me. I'm going to do the next video. Usually, the more people talk, the less they do. Not always. Sometimes people talk and do. But a lot of times people use talking as an excuse to procrastinate more and more and more.
Rule number 46, reinforce good habits.
One of my favorite quotes is, the chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they're too strong to be broken. So anybody heard that before? Raise your hand if you heard that. Warren Buffett says it. I'm not sure who originally came up with it, but the chains of habit are too weak to be felt till they're too strong to be broken. So we got all kinds of ages here, levels of entrepreneurs, and life really, I've evolved or tried to evolve through different phases of being an entrepreneur, whether it be, I started when I was 19 years old, Joel Salatin, and I was on his farm, and I said, Joel, there's this guy that has a ranch next to you. And Joel said, and I said, we could rent. He said he'd give us the land for free to use. And Joel said, no, we're too busy here on his farm, 500-acre farm. I said, well, I'll take care of it. And he said, well, you're busy here working from 5 in the morning to 5 at night on this farm. And I said, yeah, but I'll get a little headlamp. You know those little headlamp things you see people? And I'll do all my work on the farm, then I'll drive over to this other farm. It was actually about 45 minutes away. I'll drive over and take care of that farm. And so I did that for 9 months, and then we sold the cows that we raised. And so my first business, I made $12,000 in 9 months. So made about, when you do the hourly, I didn't do very well. But what it was doing was reinforcing a habit or a pattern that when you go out and do something, it succeeds.
And so that's what I was saying, the chains of habit. A lot of people, for varying reasons, as entrepreneurs, they fail a lot at the beginning, which starts to create habits of the mind, patterns of the mind, expectations of the mind, and then they become like chains that are too hard to break.
Rule number 47, learn the right things.
Charlie Munger says, don't try to think of how to have a good life. He says, use the principle of inversion, try to think of how to have a bad life, and then don't do that. So he goes, you want to have a bad life? For every $100 you make, save 1 or 2 of them and spend 98. And so I grew up, I was born to a single mom. My dad was actually in prison when I was born. I was born kind of in the inner city in Long Beach. And growing up, until I met these mentors, I was just kind of floating around. Yes, you're in school, but they don't teach anything about making money, which has to be the biggest oversight in the solar system. It's like, why do you go to school at the core practical value? Because you have to provide for yourself and your family for the next 40, 50 years. Do we equip you with any skills for that? No. We teach you calculus, which will help you if you become an engineer. I remember I was in a class, I remember learning in 7th grade, they made me memorize what the California state bird was. I think it's the California condor, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
But I was thinking, then when I was like 25, I learned how to invest in real estate and the stock market. And I was thinking, I could have waited on the California state bird. Like, I feel like you can learn that at 60 and you'll still have an enriched life. But you may want to teach kids before they're 18, like how to do their taxes, how to invest, how to do real estate, how to sign a contract. There's 0 of that in school. Even in college, I hire PhDs that are just morons, or actually don't hire them, I interview them. And I'm thinking, get your money back, son. There's depending on who you ask, there's $1.2 trillion of recorded debt for college in the United States. And they think if you count untracked loans from parents, we're talking $2 trillion in debt. And people are coming out knowing nothing. Common sense is no longer common. And so how does a society survive that doesn't know how to take care of themselves? It ends up in a government state. That becomes a solution.
Rule number 48, study the outliers.
When I began to study, I had 5 millionaire mentors over a series of years. Okay, I dropped out of college, had no money, was sleeping on a couch, back to the mobile home again, no college degree, no future, didn't have a car, didn't even have a suit to interview for a job, no qualifications for a regular mainstream job. I spent 7 years on a farm, so I only had farm qualifications. I'm at the end of my rope. And then I said, wait a second, I'm gonna start researching, because there are a few people, the 1 out of 100 people that pull themselves out of it. What do they do different? You gotta study people that they call outliers. You can't just study the masses. The masses has always been wrong. The masses were, look at science, gravity, Sir Isaac Newton, or Leonardo da Vinci, or people that were ahead of their time, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi. These people are criticized, scorned, oftentimes murdered by the masses. The masses are almost always wrong. So I said, forget the masses. I'm gonna look at the 1 in a million or the 1 in 100 that pulls it off.
Rule number 49, change your mindset.
Hey, I don't know who made that video, and I don't want to oversimplify the subject, but I'll tell you from somebody who's been poor and I've been rich, that perception is everything. What you perceive to be impossible, you will never even attempt, and it will become harder and harder. What you perceive to be easy will become easier and easier. And the reason the rich stay richer is because they've seen someone else do it, maybe their parents or a mentor. And the reason the poor stay poor is they've never seen it done, so it seems impossible. Change your mindset, change your bank account.
And rule number 50, the last one for a very special bonus clip, is get outdoors.
You know what's better than a Lamborghini? A real horse. Got real horsepower. This is more than 1 horsepower. Just like Ferraris, the horse symbol.
Goodbye city. Nap by the river. Can you hear it? That's the best sound.
Right here is where I want to build a house. Look at this house site. That's the Appalachian Trail over there. Now you never want to build on top of a hill completely because of the wind. But the views are beautiful.
Hey, little guy. Let me touch him.
Oh look, he's fresh. Just born.
Wow.
Can hardly walk.
Hey, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did I say? I'm a master.
Still, I'm not in its flight distance. 3, 4, 5. This one's kind of tame. Right there, my hand got it.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Tai on how to reverse engineer success that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching the video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1, who are 3 outliers that you are going to study? Number 2, how will you reward yourself so you reinforce good habits? And number 3, what's the mindset shift that you need to make?
You have to go out and find people who are successful financially and reverse engineer what they did. Reverse engineer, RE. I keep that little acronym in my head. It's one of the most powerful acronyms that you can remember. RE, reverse engineer. So, for example, when I was starting out, I was like, what would it take to become a millionaire? And I would go, all right, win the lottery. A lot of people play the lottery. And some people, 1 or 2, become millionaires. But if you reverse engineer, I asked myself this one day, I started studying. What makes the most millionaires? What's made the most millionaires in the United States? Self-made, not people who inherited their money. And the answer is, ta-da, real estate. Now, you don't even have to be trying to make $1 million or become a millionaire, but just think about that. Reverse engineer that and put it into your life. It's not just about a career, but it's about also passive income, because your career is active income. You work on your career, you go to your job, even if you're an entrepreneur, right? But what about when you're asleep? Here's a crazy statistic. If you, just listen to this for a second. If you make, what's minimum wage? Let's just say 15 bucks an hour. That's $30,000 a year, right? But what happens if you make $15 an hour 24/7? Okay? Now that's $90,000 a year. Triple it. But you can't work 24 hours a day. So that means you have to have this other thing called passive income. And passive income means, I lock myself in my own living room here. I'm gonna go out this way. I was filming over here. So what I started doing is going, I gotta have my active income, job, career, entrepreneurship, but I wanna reverse engineer the passive income that the most millionaires have ever, what has created the most millionaires ever, sorry. And that's real estate.
If you want Tai Lopez's advice on how to make $100,000 a year, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
And I'm gonna share with you 4 simple steps that you can get started making money online today.